if you're genuinely wrestling with your conscience, then you're someone who's chosen by God. And I think that's right. That's accurate.
It's interesting what you just said. One of Terrence McKenna's lectures, he talked about a very profound psychedelic experience that he had where he was given this revelation that the world is made out of words. That everything is made out of words. Like he had just some sort of a profound understanding of what words really mean.
Well, how much of the reality that surrounds you has been, what would you say, has emerged out of the realm of possibility because of what you've said? A lot. And you have this huge influence on the world that's all a consequence, almost all a consequence of what you've said. And so there's an insistence in the Judeo-Christian canon that that the capacity that words have to shape possibility is akin or identical to the process that generates reality itself. And I think that's true. That's why in the opening chapters of Genesis we're described as formulated in the image of God. We're like a microcosm of the process that gives rise to order itself. It's a very different view than the bottom-up materialistic view, let's say, of the Enlightenment in the scientific world. It's a different way of looking at things. It's the notion that what is in front of you is a field of indeterminate possibility. It's got some implicit structure, as the scientists insist, but it's open, and you grapple with it like you grapple with your dawning consciousness in the morning. So you have people like Dawkins, they parody the traditional conceptions of God, a superstitious being, nothing more than a defense against death, anxiety, or the opiate of the masses, the old man in the sky. The conceptualization of God in the Old Testament and the New Testament is unbelievably sophisticated. And to reduce it to that kind of parody is a stunning disservice.
Dawkins is an odd duck. He's an odd duck because I think he knows also that there is some value in psychedelic experiences, but he's scared to have them. And
he won't look through Galileo's telescope.
Yeah, but, he's had major health crises, right? Didn't he have some sort of a stroke or something like that?
I don't know. I think
he did. I believe he did. I believe he had a major health crisis. It's like, how much time do you have left? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to just not try it forever? You're just going to...
What calls to you? And so that's the God that's portrayed. That's one image of the God that's portrayed in the Old Testament.
Are you aware of some of the more recent work that's been done by scholars in Israel, where these guys have now come up with this hypothesis that the burning bush was actually it was a DMT experience, and that the burning bush was most likely an acacia tree, that the acacia tree is apparently rich with DMT. And they think, the way you get a DMT experience is you smoke it, right? And that they had some method of achieving psychedelic states through this. And this is where Moses is encountering God.
Well, we have one of the things...
Have you read any of that stuff?
I know about the theorizing, and it's certainly the case that people have been using psychedelic experiences for we don't know how long.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of years, no doubt. And they've had a profound cultural consequence. Calling. Well, when you can think about it this way. When you're laying out a podcast, when you're participating in a podcast, you're following a golden thread, right? You're following where your interest takes you and your curiosity takes you. And that's not something you can pre-plan, right? It's something that happens in the moment. So imagine that you're focused on your goal of having the most interesting conversation possible and communicating what's derived to the broadest number of people. So that's the overarching goal. Okay, now you focus on the moment and a spirit arises within you. That's a good way of thinking about it. That's the logos. A spirit arises within you that leads you on a pathway that's an investigation into the truth. That's part of that calling. The psychedelic chemicals, what would they heighten that. They heighten the manifestation of the underlying mystery. That's another way of thinking about it. They do that.
And these ungulate cows that were everywhere that would shit, and then these psilocybin mushrooms would grow in their shit. Observed primates flipping over these cow patties, looking for beetles and grubs and things to eat. It's everywhere. Like, you could see it all over Africa. If there's something on that, they're going to try it out. And if these things are trying it out, and they're doing this over a period of 2 million years, and they develop language and culture and weapons, and they start thinking about things, and they become different than every animal around them. And this was McKenna's stone ape theory, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And Dennis McKenna, who is, a legitimate scientist, Dennis explains it even better, because he explains it with the actual mechanisms that your brain, the things that fire up when you encounter high-dose psilocybin experiences that would lead you to the development of language. Glossolalia, the connection of sounds and objects and bringing things together in a manner of communication.
So in the Sermon on the Mount, for example, which is an instruction manual, Christ tells his listeners how to orient themselves in the world properly. So he says, first, aim with all your heart at the highest good you can imagine. Now, you'll get better at that as your vision clears, but that's the orientation, to do what's right. Now, you might say, like Pontius Pilate said, well, what is right? What is truth? But most people know the difference between right and wrong. You know, at least step by step, what would move you forward and upward. So you orient yourself to the highest possible upward place. Then you make the assumption that other people have the same intrinsic value that you do. So that's your initial aim and presumption. And then you pay attention to the moment. And that's often the statement that gets Christ confused with the hippies, to consider the lilies of the field who don't toil or spin. But that's not the instruction. The instruction is to aim up with everything. And then, having that firmly in mind, to pay attention, as much attention as you can, to each moment, to allow the words to come to you that best suit that upward aim, not to subordinate your language to your own machinations or manipulations or your own hedonistic desire, but towards what's right. And if you do that, then what emerges out of possibility is akin to the garden, to the original garden in Genesis 1, and it's the order that's good. Truthful language brings about the order that's good. And that's, that's a very accurate way of portraying the role consciousness plays in bringing about reality. So, and it's not that viewpoint, by the way, isn't limited to the Judeo-Christian canon. You see the same thing in the Taoist. Part of the reason that you're so successful, in my opinion, is because you actually say what you think. Like, you're not putting on a show. Actually, you have no reason to put on a show. You put on a whole bunch of shows, and they've already been successful. And you're actually asking the questions that are genuine questions, and people can trust you because of that. And that means that you're letting the words emerge as they come to you. And doing that with each word, that's a decision, because you can use your language to manipulate, and you can use your language for your own, say, hedonistic purposes or to gain power. Or you can just say what you think. All of those different choices are a decision. That's a wrestling. That's a moral decision. And it shines in every word. And so it's super important. That's part of the reason why in the Christian canon, the word is the basis of reality, right? It's the force it's the process that generates the order that's good out of possibility and chaos, right? And so and Israel, the word Israel means we who wrestle with God. So that's the chosen people, right? And so what that means at a deeper level even is that if you're genuinely wrestling with your conscience, then you're someone who's chosen by God. And I think that's right. That's accurate.
It's interesting what you just said. One of Terrence McKenna's lectures, he talked about a very profound psychedelic experience that he had where he was given this revelation that the world is made out of words. That everything is made out of words. Like he had just some sort of a profound understanding of what words really mean.
Well, how much of the reality that surrounds you has been, what would you say, has emerged out of the realm of possibility?
With that understanding that that's possible, the world changes. Because now you know that that's possible. You could live your whole life and not know that the most shocking, profound thing in existence is 3 hits away. 3 hits away. And all of a sudden you're in a completely different universe in 20, 30 seconds. That's nuts. And the fact that that is dismissed, that people look at it as like, oh, you're just escaping reality, and you're like, it might be the source of civilization itself. It might be the source of language. It might be the source of the expansion of the human mind over a period of 2 million years, the doubling of the human brain over a period of 2 million years, which Terrence McKenna felt directly coincides with the shifting of the tropical rainforest turning into